And we are live once again. I think that may be a little bit loud. Music by the Fichte Brothers, as always. Give it that D&D feel. And as usual, this first few minutes will just be me preambling, I guess, while we wait for people to join our live. Do have a couple of extra things that I didn't have. I think it was the first live that I did, and I will show them now. So probably show these again later, but it's like it's the combat grid. So each square is supposed to be 5 feet by 5 feet, and just as an example to show you, and these are one of the minis that we've got. I'm trying to get it to focus. I don't know if that focused or not, but yeah, it's kind of like a zombie with a bone club. But when I was talking about the like combat grid squares and miniatures, I think it was either the last live or the live I did before that. That's what I was talking about. Now we have a plethora of different minis, different enemies, different allies and stuff like that. And we do have these. We have probably about 4 stacks like that, so stacks of these, so we can have a sprawling battle map sometimes, depending on you know, what's going on in the campaign or the one shot at the time. Once again, sipping from my monster. Once again, not sponsored. I don't know, I feel like I have to say that. I probably don't, but you know, as always, if Monster wants to sponsor us, we will not say no. I think let me give it another minute. I may just start now. So welcome, weary travellers, once again. I have my notes, I have my dice, I hope you have your drinks and your snacks ready to learn about the Barbarian. So next up during this live that we're going to cover is the Barbarian. It's one of the many classes in the Player's Handbook. So I'm going to go through them live by live. We have the Barbarian, the Bard, the Cleric, Druid, Fighter, Monk, Paladin, Ranger, Rogue, Sorcerer, Warlock and Wizard. And there are a few others and stuff like that. I know the Artificer's not here, Bloodhunter's not here, but again, this is just the standard Player's Handbook, the 2024 version, not the 2014 version. I think all classes now have 4 subclasses. So I know the Barbarian in the 2014 version had 2 subclasses, but now they have 4. I think each class has 4 subclasses. And the subclasses for the Barbarian we will get into later on. So, Barbarian, as you might think the name implies, they are warriors, they are protectors, they are the typical run headlong into melee to be both tank and brute strength. It's the only class that has the D12 as a hit die, so there we go, the D12, and this D12 has my little panda in it. Do love those dice. But yeah, so something that I want to make fairly clear is sort of like the Barbarian is probably stereotypically, you know, stupid and strong. So low intelligence, high strength, all they do is hit things and, you know, don't use their words. But if you do want to do have a Barbarian as your character, there are different ways, different paths that you can take. You don't have to be, you know, just a big, dumb, stupid brute. So it is entirely up to you. And with some of these new subclasses, it doesn't always have to be about violence and fury, that what fuels your rage. And the rage, of course, is what the Barbarian is most known for. As I'm sure, you know, the Barbarian, they're known for saying, I would like to rage. And you'd start off with, at level 1, you start off with 2 uses of rage, which it resets on both a short and a long rest. So if you expend both your rages, you can have a short rest and then you'll get them back. And it will level up, so you'll increase your number of rages as you level up. So you'll get 2 rages, then 3 rages, 4, and so on. So when you rage, you have resistant to non-magical bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing weapons. So from swords, from clubs, and from arrows, things like that. So your DM will roll the damage and they will tell you what the damage is, then you would take half that because you are raging. Also, whilst you are raging, you get to add an extra number of damage. So again, you start at level 1, that will be 2 extra damage per attack, and that again scales as you level. So it will start off as 2 damage, then 3, then 4, and so on. You also get advantage on strength saving checks and strength checks and strength saving throws. And you also can't concentrate on any spells, and you can't cast spells. So if you were to multi-class into Barbarian, and for example if you were a cleric, while you were raging you wouldn't be able to cast any healing spells. You wouldn't be able to cast a concentration spell and then rage and then keep concentrating on that spell. Unfortunately, the concentration does fall once you rage. It lasts for up to 10 minutes. In the 2014 version of the Player's Handbook, it did only last for 1 minute, it is 10 rounds of combat, because each round of combat lasts 6 seconds. But I think this might afford more applications outside of combat if you were going to rage. So, you know, it's something that you could play around with. You also get unarmoured defence, which means you get your AC, so your armour class is 10, plus your strength, your strength and your constitution modifier. So if you had both strength and constitution of 16, your modifiers would both be 3, so your AC would be 10 plus 3 plus 3, which would equal 16. And at level 1, without wearing armour, that's pretty good. But that's what you want for a Barbarian. You know, like I said before, they are tanky, they are there for brute force most of the time, and that's kind of what you want. You also get weapon mastery, so certain weapons will afford you like extras. One of the weapons, I think the quarterstaff, you're able to use topple, which will anytime you manage to hit an enemy with your quarterstaff, they will have to make a constitution saving throw or be knocked prone, which is good. They get, once an enemy's prone, they'll get advantage on attacks against them, and when it's their turn, they'll have to use some of their movement speed to stand back up. That's all at level 1. And at level 2, you get your danger sense, which means you also get advantage on dexterity saving throws. And you get a reckless attack, which means you can gain advantage on any attacks that you make against enemies, but then again, attacks would have advantage against you until the end of your next turn as well. So kind of pros and cons. You get advantage on your turn, but you also get advantage on attacks against you. So if you have 3 or 4 enemies aiming for you, all 4 of those attacks would be made at advantage, unfortunately. At level 3, you choose your subclasses. So you've got Path of the Berserker, which I think is pretty much the same as the 2014 rules. Path of the Wild Heart, which is similar to Path of the Totem Warrior. There are some differences, which I will go through when I get to the Path of the Wild Heart. There's Path of the World Tree and Path of the Zealot as well. Like I said before, I think each class now has 4 subclasses rather than just 2. So it's going to be interesting to go through those, see what the differences there are. And at level 3 you also get primal knowledge, so you get proficiency in another skill. So when you create your character you will have proficiency in certain skills. Level 3 as a barbarian you get to choose another skill to be proficient in as well. At level 5 you get an extra attack, so obviously you get to attack twice, and you get an extra 10 feet of movement. So some races have higher base speed anyway. That would be the Goliath and the Wood Elf. They both have a base speed of 35 feet. And at level 5, yeah, level 5, you would get 45 feet. And if you had a base speed of 30 feet, you'd have 40 feet, which isn't anything to sniff at. Just wanted to, sometimes an extra 5 feet of movement is just what you need. At level 7, you get Feral Instinct, which means you get advantage on your initiative rolls, which means you would take your d20 and roll it twice, take the higher number, and then whatever your bonus is for initiative. You also get Instinctive Pounce, so when you use your bonus action to rage, you can move up to half your movement, as well as raging, so it's part of that bonus action, you can move up to half your movement. You also get a Brutal Strike, so instead of, when you use your reckless attack, instead of imposing advantage on an enemy, you can instead choose to do a Forceful Blow, which means you would push your enemy 15 feet away, or Hamstring Blow, which means you reduce their speed by 15 as well. So instead of getting advantage on the attack, you could do an extra, push them away or reduce their speed. At level 11, you get a Relentless Rage, which means when you drop to 0 HP, you can make a Constitution saving throw, and then you would be up to, your HP would then be double your Barbarian Rage. So, for example, if you were level 11 and you hadn't taken any, other levels in any other classes, your HP would then become 22. And it's kind of similar to the I was going to say Half Orc, the Half Orc in 2014 Player's Handbook, or the Orc in the 2024 Handbook. They have Relentless Endurance, so when they drop to 0 HP, they can choose instead to just drop to 1 HP, and that's something that they can only use once per long rest. But this Relentless Rage, it's kind of similar, but you have to make a con save instead, and you can do it more than once, but the con save will increase by 5 each time. So the first one is 10, and then if in the same battle you were reduced to 0 hit points again, you could choose to make another con save, but it would increase to 15, and then for a third time it would then increase to 20. So you can keep doing it, but it gets harder and harder each time, and then that it resets back to 10 after a short or a long rest. At level 13, you get more Brutal Strikes, so like the Forceful Push or the Hamstring Blow. You get the Staggering Blow, which means you impose a disadvantage on your enemy, and they can't take opportunity attacks until the end of your next go. And Sundering Blow, which means attacks against them have a +5 to hit. So if anybody was going to attack them after you, they would get a +5 to their attack roll, which sometimes is all you need. Sometimes you might get a 12, their AC's 13, but if you get a +5, you're going to make that anyway. At level 15, you get Persistent Rage. So I don't think I said before, but with the Persistent Rage, when you rage, you have to do things in order to keep the rage going. So at level 1, level 2, all the way up until level 15, you would have to attack someone each turn to keep the rage going. And like I said, it does last for 10 minutes, but each turn you would have to do something to make sure that the rage keeps going. But once you hit level 15, you don't need to do that anymore. And you also get I can't read my own writing. My nose is sometimes so terrible. And once per long rest, you are able to regain. Once you roll initiative, you're able to regain all uses of your rage. So, say you've already had a couple of combats, you've used all your rage, and your DM says those magic words, "Roll me initiative" once again. You can regain all rages that you've already spent. But like I said, that's only once, you can only use that once per long rest. Level 17, you get an improved Brutal Strike, so you get to increase the damage output for those, the Staggering Blow, the Sundering Blow that I went over before. Level 18, you get Indomitable Might, I think I've said that correctly. So if you roll a strength check or a strength saving throw, if it's lower than your actual strength score, your ability score, then you get to use your ability score instead. Level 19, you gain what is called an epic boon, or you can choose a feat of your choice. And in the player's handbook, they've listed quite a lot. I don't want to go through all of them here, but they have what's the word I'm looking for? Recommended the boon of irresistible offense, and that will increase your strength or dexterity by 1 for a total of 30, and any bludgeoning, slashing and piercing damage that you deal, it ignores resistance. So when you rage as a barbarian, you are resistant to non-magical bludgeoning, piercing and slashing damage, and other enemies might have that resistance as well. So again, you get the damage, but you take half damage from whatever's rolled. But at level 19 with this boon, you would ignore that. So if you roll 20 damage, for example, with a longsword attack, even if they have resistance, it's not going to get halved. It will do the full 20 damage. There are other boons and feats to choose from, so it's something completely up to you. You don't have to choose this. It's just that's what was recommended. At level 20, you become a primal champion, so your strength and constitution both increase by 4 for a total of 25. So, yeah, it's pretty good, especially if you want to be the tanky muscle, basically. I'm going to come on to the first of the subclasses for the Barbarian, which is the Berserker. The Berserker. So the Berserker is kind of what it says on the tin. It is violence, it is fury, and that is what fuels your rage as a barbarian if you choose the path of the Berserker. At level 3, you're able to go into a frenzy. So you become reckless while you rage and you deal extra damage. So you will deal you'll roll d6 equal to the amount of extra rage damage that you can deal. So like I said before, you start off dealing an extra 2 damage, and then when you level up, you'll get 3 damage, 4 damage, and what you will do if you frenzy, you can roll, if you do 3 rage damage, you'll roll 3d6 and then add that onto your total damage as well. So again, just if you want to be the huge tanky muscle character, then I think this may be the path for you. Level 6, you enter a mindless rage, so you are not able to be frightened or charmed. And if your character has those conditions before they rage, those conditions end until your rage ends. So either you choose to end your rage, or if you're knocked unconscious. But then if you're knocked unconscious, go to 0 HP, you're not going to be frightened or charmed anyway. Level 10, you get the retaliation, so you're able to make a reaction if you're hit by someone who's within 5 feet of you, you're able to make an extra attack, basically. Basically does what it says on the tin. At level 14, you get the intimidating presence, and you get a bonus action to frighten enemies within 30 feet of you. So if you are successful, they fail their saving throw against that, they will be frightened of you. That resets on a long rest, or you can expend another rage to use it again. So the Path of the Wild Heart, this seems very, like I said before, it seems very similar to the Path of the Totem Warrior in the 2014 version of the rules, but whereas the Path of the Totem Warrior had the bear, the eagle and the wolf, and it just kind of built on those. It had the bear and wolf for each time that you leveled up and got higher in the Path of the Totem Warrior. There are more animals and their feats to choose from. So the Path of the Wild Heart, these barbarians are kin to animals, and that's where they get their rage from. Their the animals, their spirit fills them with like supernatural power, supernatural might, and that's where they pull their rage from. So at level 3, you get the animal speaker. You get access to a couple of spells. So these would be ritual spells, so you wouldn't need any components or anything like that. Ritual spells do take slightly longer to cast, but they don't need any components. So you get Beast Sense, which means you can touch a willing creature and a willing beast, and you will be able to basically see through their eyes, smell through their nose. If they have Tremor Sense, you'll be able to sense through that. And that's a concentration spell for up to an hour. So if you were to rage, you would lose that. And Speak with Animals. And again, something that does exactly what it says on the tin. It can last for up to 10 minutes, but obviously you will cast it. You'll be able to speak to animals, and sometimes, you know, speaking to animals can be helpful. Say if it's like a cat or a dog in a city or something like that, or like maybe like rats in a city. But if you were going to speak to, say, birds in the forest, all they have to speak about maybe just where's the best place to find seed, or the best places to build a nest. Also at level 3, you get the Rage of the Wilds. So you can choose from bear, eagle, or wolf. As a bear, you become resistant to all damage types, except force damage, necrotic damage, psychic damage, and radiant damage. So you would have, you'd already have the bludgeoning, slashing and piercing resistance, but then you'd be resistant to cold damage, you'd be resistant to fire damage and others, apart from the ones that I just said before. As an eagle, you can use both the disengage and dash as part of your bonus action when you rage. So use a bonus action to rage, and then you'll be able to disengage and dash at the same time. So if you had, say, 3 enemies around you, and you chose to rage as a bonus action, you would be able to disengage and dash away as part of that bonus action as well, because normally a disengage or a dash would be a full action, so you wouldn't be able to do that all at once. But if you choose the eagle as part of the Rage of the Wilds, you would be able to do that. And if you choose the wolf, allies within 5 feet of you get advantage, which I always found extremely helpful whenever I wild shaped into a wolf as Thea, my high elf druid. She would wild shape into a dire wolf quite a lot of the time, and yeah, allies get within 5 feet. She got advantage on attack rolls. At level 6, you get Aspect of the Wild, so you can choose from the owl, panther, or salmon. If you choose owl, you get dark vision within 60 feet. If you are a race that already has dark vision, you will get a further 60 feet of dark vision for up to 120 feet. Panther, you get a climb speed equal to your current speed, and if you choose the salmon, you get swim speed up to your current speed. And you can change your choice on a long rest. So say one day you're exploring a dungeon, you can choose the owl, get an extra dark vision. If you come to a lake the next day, choose the salmon, and you're able to get the swim speed equal to your current speed. Level 10, you get access to the Nature Speaker spell, so you're able to commune with nature, and I think it's up to like a mile radius, so it's fairly big. And then when you cast that, you're able to commune with the spirits of nature, and you can gain access to areas where there are local settlements, if there are any portals that have opened nearby, the flora and fauna that are within the radius of the spell, and things like that. Level 14, another power of the wilds, there's the falcon, and that gives you a fly speed equal to your normal speed, as long as you're not wearing armour, and as a barbarian you do get unarmoured defence. A lion, enemies within 5 feet of you have disadvantage on their attack rolls, or if they are near another barbarian who has the same bonus as you. So if you both have the power of the wilds and you both choose the lion, enemies within 5 feet of both of you, they get disadvantage on their attack rolls. And the ram, larger or smaller creatures, when you attack them, you have a chance to knock them prone. And I think they need to make a save for that. But again, if you're knocking enemies prone, that gains you advantage on attack rolls against them once they are prone. Path of the World Tree. So it connects you with the spiritual tree of life, and at level 3 you gain vitality of the tree. So you get a vitality surge, and you get temporary hit points equal to your barbarian level. So at level 3 you get 3 temporary hit points. At level 10, again assuming that you didn't multi-class into any other class, you'll get 10 temporary hit points. But you also get access to life-giving force. So any allies within 10 feet of you, you get to roll a d6 equal to your rage damage. And again, level 3 I think the rage damage is 2. So you would roll, what's my d6? You'd roll 2 of these, and then the total of that you give your ally equal to that temporary hit points. So say you rolled 10 with 2d6, they would gain 10 temporary hit points. At level 6, you gain access to branches of the tree. So if an enemy starts their turn within 30 feet of you, you can cause spectral branches to teleport them to yourself. As long as they fail their strength save, this is a reaction, and you bring them to you, and then you can reduce their speed to 0. They would have to finish their turn in front of you, but then if you went straight afterwards, you wouldn't have to move. You could just, you know, bonk them on the head to your little barbarian's heart desire. At level 10, you get access to battering roots, so your melee reach increases from 5 feet to 10 feet. So I'll hold this up as a reference. So these are 5-foot squares for combat, and we use minis just like this. So usually if you are in that square there, you can only hit with a melee weapon in these squares because they are within 5 feet. But with a reach, this would increase your reach to 10 feet with the battering roots. So you would be able to hit, standing there, you'd be able to hit an enemy here. Or standing there, you'd be able to hit an enemy there as well. There are a few weapons that already have this. I think the glaive is one of them. I think it's like just a sword and a really, really long pole. That has a reach of 10 feet, but it usually says that in the weapon's description. But if you have access to the battering roots, if you choose this subclass of the Barbarian, you are able to do that with a long sword, with a spear, with a club, with a great axe, anything like that. And at level 14, you get access to travel along the tree. So when you use your bonus action to rage, you are able to move up to 60 feet, and you are also able to bring with you 6 willing creatures. So say you had your party and maybe a couple of NPCs, you're able to rage and teleport up to, basically teleport 60 feet, potentially out of harm's way. And the final, I think that's the final one? The final one is Path of the Zealot. So the rage for these barbarians, they come from divine power from gods. And when I read about them, I was like, this is just like an angry cleric, less healy, more stabby. Or more, you know, pound them into a pulp if you're using a warhammer or a club. That's what came to my mind when I read about the Path of the Zealot. So with the Berserker, the Barbarian's rage comes from fury and violence. With the Path of the Wilds, they draw strength from the animals and the animal spirits around them. And with the Path of the World Tree, they gain their rage from the spirits of the World Tree. But Path of the Zealot, you gain your rage from powers of the gods. So at level 3, you gain Divine Fury. So when you make your first hit with this, apologies, my nose is very itchy. You're able to roll an extra d6 again, and either do an extra radiant, 1d6 radiant or necrotic damage. So you would choose that every single time. You don't have to stick to one or the other each time, so it doesn't always have to be necrotic, it doesn't always have to be radiant. You get to choose each time. So I guess if you were, for example, if you were going up against like vampires or things like that, radiant damage would be helpful there, and you can use that to your advantage. So potentially figure out what enemies you're facing and whether or not they are resistant or vulnerable to necrotic or radiant damage, and change as you will. You also, at level 3, get Warrior of the Gods, so that means you have a pool of 4d12. Sometimes I'm not sure if you can tell the difference between the d12 and the d20. But yeah, you get a pool of 4 of these, and as a bonus action you can roll it, and you get the roll on the dice, you will get that HP back, and that resets on a long rest. At level 6 you get Fanatical Focus, so per active rage you get to reroll a save with the bonus equal to rage damage. So if you rolled a save and you rolled really poorly, you could roll again and then plus your rage damage. So again, at level 1 it starts off as 2 and then increases to 3, 4, etc. as you level up. So you would get to add your rage damage to the new roll, but you must use the new roll. So even if the new roll is worse, you got to use it, unfortunately. Level 10, you get Zealous Presence. So as a bonus action, you get to unleash a battle cry, and allies that are within 60 feet of you get advantage on attack rolls until the start of your next go. And you can only use this once per long rest unless you use you expend a rage to use it again. Level 14, you get Rage of the Gods. So when you rage, you become the visage of a divine warrior, and it lasts for up to a minute or until you fall to 0 HP. And like I said, it's like a minute might not seem like a long time, but in combat, because a round of combat is 6 seconds, it is 10 rounds of combat. And again, it's only once per long rest, but you gain either of the following. So you gain a fly speed equal to your movement speed, and you can hover around the combat map. You gain resistance to necrotic, psychic, and radiant damage, or you're able to, as a reaction, revive a fallen ally. So if someone within 30 feet of you falls to 0 HP, you get to use your reaction to expend a rage slot to instead bring them back up to an HP equal to your barbarian level. So that would be, again, assuming that you've not taken any other levels assuming that you've not multi-classed. So say you were level 15 barbarian, you would then bring your party member back up onto 15 HP instead. It will need to expend a rage slot, but surely that's better than your ally being in death saves. And I think that's it. Something that I didn't say at the beginning was for each class at level 4, 8, 12 and 16. It's not something that I'm going to say going through because all I do was repeat myself quite a lot. You get the ability score improvement. So that means you get to increase an ability score by 2 or increase 2 ability scores by 1. So if you had, for example, 15 Constitution, 15 Dexterity, and you wanted to up them both to 16, so you increased your modifier, you could increase them both by 1, and that would work. Or if you had a Dexterity score of 14 and you wanted to increase it to 16 to get an increase in your modifier, you can increase that 1 score by 2, take it from 14 to 16. Either that, or you can choose a feat. I'm not going to go through all of them because there's far too many to cover in even an hour, but yeah, I think some feats do require prerequisites, but that is up to you. So when you reach level 4, level 8, level 12 and level 16 in any of the classes that you choose, you get to improve your ability score or you get to choose a feat. So again, it's completely up to you. And I think we shall leave that there, unless anyone has any questions of any of the subclasses that I've gone through of the Barbarian. Anything that anyone wants to say, any classes that they've played, any Barbarian tales I'm willing to discuss. I will say before I go, my new character in our Icewind campaign, she is monk with 1 level in Barbarian. She is my previous character's wife. She's not happy that her wife has died. So that's why she has a level in Barbarian. But yeah, it was fun in the combat. It was fun to just be up in melee and say, I would like to rage. But yeah, if anybody has any tales to tell of their Barbarians, I would be more than happy to listen and discuss. But I think we shall leave it there. And next week, I will double check the date of that, but next Friday we will go into the Bard and the subclasses thereof. And big thank you to anyone who has watched, anyone who's interacted throughout the live, much appreciated. And we will end it there. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Ending now.